This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. As they say, the beat goes on. Logan's back for another great show here, and we're going to talk about getting you to and through retirement. Logan Sadler, of course, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. My name is Ron Stutz. I am always happy to do this show with you, Logan. It's great to be back on the air.
As well for me, Ron. Always my favorite time of the week here, Radio Week, and I think we got a pretty good show lined up for you guys there on some good retirement education as well to keep it fun and happy throughout. So looking forward to it.
A lot of good food for thought, so everybody stay with us here. Let me give you the all-important phone number if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with Logan. Not only can you listen to him on the radio here, but also podcasts and YouTube videos and everything else, but you can have a one-on-one with Logan simply by calling 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. Easy way to remember it is by using the word plan, because that is absolutely essential. You need a plan. 888-823-PLAN. I got a fun fact of the week here for you, Logan, before we get started. Something kind of lighthearted. I've never thought about this before, but I read it earlier this week. People are more likely to grant favors if you speak into their right ear. Do you believe that kind of nonsense?
You know, I'd like to see the facts behind that. I'm not sure if that's factual or not, but hey, that's I'll definitely try it if I'm asking for a favor next time.
Maybe some people just hear better in their right ear, or
yeah, that might be it.
Makes them more tolerant or more generous. I don't know, but that's kind of stupid things I come across every week in preparation for this show. And let's talk about being financially independent. And of course, it's time for the Independence Day holiday and all of that. Mm-hmm. Let's take the opportunity to declare our financial independence. But first, we need to be independent from government. You don't want to be dependent on the government to get you to and through retirement. Certainly not.
Yeah, certainly not. I think, everybody has their own form of what they envision independence and financial freedom and all that stuff. Everyone kind of has their own iteration of it. And I think a lot of that, like you said, Ron, centers back to most people want to be free from government programs. I mean, obviously, things like Social Security are great to have as part of a retirement plan. I know clients, that's one of the tools we use with our clients when we're looking at 401ks, IRAs, and pensions, and then Social Security. We're looking at when's the best time to maximize that, or what might be the most efficient time to utilize Social Security elections. But, for most of the successful plans that we build for clients, that is just a small portion of their retirement plan, right? Some of them have, hundreds of thousands of dollars saved up, or millions of dollars in some cases saved up for retirement. And Social Security is just a small portion of it. You don't want that to be 100% of your retirement plan, because there is a lot of talk, I know we've talked about that lots on the show, where what if Social Security got, taken away or reduced or whatever happens to it? If that's, 70, 80, 90% of your retirement income, you're going to be in a heck of a situation if it's reduced at all, right? Whether that's one penny or a lot. So you want to make sure that's a small portion of your retirement plan. And like I said, it's a great thing to have as part of the retirement plan, things like Social Security, but you want to make sure it's not too big of a portion. The next one I always talk about, I like to talk about as well, it's not the most fun topic, but is nursing home costs. You don't want to have to rely on a government program to hope it covers your nursing care costs, because as we've mentioned on this show, you have over a 60% chance of spending some time in a nursing home or long-term care facility. And so I know a lot of the conversations we're having with our clients, in their 60s and 70s, is really getting ready for, if we do have a nursing home scare or a nursing home issue, how are we going to cover that cost? Because it can be one of those things, as I've mentioned before, I've told several stories on the show about clients that are, spending anywhere from, $5,000 to $15,000 a month on some type of nursing home care. So it's one of those things that those government programs are great to have if you can qualify for them and they work for you, but it's not, planning on just having those is not a sufficient plan that's going to be, bulletproof transitioning into retirement and into those phases. is.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be independent. I mean, you do want to be independent from government. You don't want to rely on the government to get you through life. But also, you want to declare your independence from family. And I don't mean you want to be away from them, but you don't want to be financially dependent on them or otherwise.
Yeah, that's totally true. I think it's really funny because I get the opportunity to meet with so many different families, and our firm's met with so many different families over the years, and I've really seen those dynamics play out very differently sometimes, right? Sometimes we have great relationships with the kids want you to move in or want to help the parents out as they get older, and it's great. I have other ones where maybe they don't talk to their kids that often, or maybe the last thing they'd want to do is have their kids take care of them in retirement, right? They might have, whether it's a pride issue or maybe they don't get along much anymore, whatever the issue is, it can play out so many different ways. And not one of them is right and not one of them is wrong. But I think not having to move in with your kids later in life is a great option. I mean, I know when we're planning with our clients that you want to have more of a plan than, well, if things get bad, I'll just move in with the kids, right? Because you don't know where the kids are going to live. You don't know what type of relationship you'll have at that time. You don't know what their family life will be like. They're probably raising kids and doing other things. So you want to make sure you have a good financial backing there to where you can cover yourself late into later life and maybe either pay for, whether it's nursing home care, assisted living, or retirement homes, whatever you're looking at, but making sure that your budget allows you to do what you need to do and not have to rely on the support. I've seen sometimes where, maybe we didn't do, maybe the client didn't do proper planning ahead of time, and we've all probably seen family members where they're having to actually cover the cost for mom and dad to live, day to day. Mm-hmm. And that's something where, a lot of the improper planning that was done, just relying on either Social Security or maybe just a pension, it really didn't set them up right to be able to be financially free from the family. And like I say, yes, there's obviously wealthy kids out there that are in great positions where they can help their kids or their parents, but a lot of the times that might not be the case. So you really want to make sure that you've done that proper planning ahead of time in your 50s, 60s, and 70s to make sure we've covered that later stage of life properly from a financial standpoint.
You do not want to be a burden on your kids, financial or otherwise. We're talking about declaring your financial independence on this holiday weekend here. And how about independence from creditors? That would certainly be a good thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's one thing I always recommend, right? It's nice to not owe anybody any money if you don't have to. But, one of the things I think entering retirement, and again, a lot of the clients that come on board with our firm and decide to work with us are typically entering retirement. They're between the ages of, 55 to 65 or so when they decide to come on board, and some of them later in their lives, of course. But, most of the clients that we deal with are transitioning or preparing for retirement. And retirement is one of those things that you definitely want to go into with as low as debt as possible. Now, there's good debt, there's bad debt. We could have that conversation. But, a lot of people that are coming into retirement, they want to have, credit cards taken care of. They want to possibly have their mortgage paid for in some cases, or maybe a small mortgage left. They, don't have any huge car payments. I know a lot of the old train of thought, right, was, well, I'll retire and buy myself a truck, or a car for retirement. Well, I think with cars now, between $70,000 and $100,000, that's not that retirement dream much anymore for most people. But I think that's really important to make sure when we're transitioning in retirement, we're keeping our debt as low as possible. Now, that is a conversation we have with clients because obviously we have some clients where, maybe their house payment is $2,000 a month and they have a 2.75% interest rate and their income's, $15,000, $20,000 a month. Obviously, in that case, we're not too stressed about the mortgage, right? We have other areas that we could utilize money to cover that, but there is some clients when we retire, our income might be, $5,000 or $6,000 a month. So that $2,000 mortgage is a huge portion of that income. So it's just very important to have those conversations and really try to make sure we stay as clear from debt as we can heading into retirement and making sure it's proportioned right.
Logan, I always enjoy doing this show so much because you do such a great job of explaining all these things, breaking it all down for, those of us who aren't really, conversant with everything financial out there because you deal with it every single day. We're talking about being financially independent in your retirement. And also I would add independence from employment would be good. And by that, I mean, if you go back to work in any capacity after you're retired, you want to do it because it's something you want to do, not because of something you have to do in order to make ends meet.
Yeah, totally true. I have a client that I could think of right off the top of my head where he retired. He made about $150,000 a year while he was working. He's a single man, and he was working, making good money, and he was able to retire at about 65, and he was able to make $170,000 per year, right? So he actually got a pay raise in retirement because he had done a very good job of putting away a good hunk of money for retirement, and we were able to position it correctly. Well, the funny part is he was retired all of about 6 months, and then he decided, you know what, I got to do something. So he actually went back to work at the same job, but more on a part-time basis. He was working about 40 to 50 hours a week, so he went back in, working 25 to 30 hours a week, and he was totally happy, right? Now he had a phenomenal income. He was able to kind of do what he wants. He was able to take off the days he wanted to from work and kind of be more in control of his schedule. He didn't have to work is the whole point, right? I think there's some people out there that say, well, I don't need to save for retirement because I could just work forever. Well, then you're kind of tied to your job. You have no independence or no control of the future. And if, I hate to say it, but if health concerns rise and you might not be able to do your job anymore, then we get in a tricky, sticky situation there. So I think having that independence where we properly plan to where, hey, we could work part-time or could volunteer at this charity or could do this because our retirement budget and things of that sort allow for it, in our way, that's the way to set things up.
Hey, if you like some of the things you're hearing Logan Sadler talk about today, stay with us here. I'm going to give out that all-important phone number in just a few moments. So we're talking about being financially independent. And when I say independent from the stock market, I don't mean that you don't want to be involved in the stock market at all, but you don't want to have to count on gains that you have in the stock market in order to get through life.
Yeah, that's a really great point you brought up, Ron. I think one of the things I find very interesting about investing is people think that, hey, if I have $1 million and I want to invest it, all million of it needs to be 100% in the stock market, right? And that's just the old school of thought, meaning if there's only two places to put money, right, either the real estate market or the stock market. And that is not the case. There's several different places to put money, and there's a lot of them that are better than others for certain cases. But I think a lot of people that we meet with, again, planning and preparing for retirement, a lot more of them aren't as focused on the gains of the market as they are the downs of the market. And I think with a lot of the current, news and current predicaments we might be in, a lot of that is becoming more and more realistic to some clients where they're saying, you know what, I have 100% of my money at risk or in the market, or maybe I was putting it in bonds, and bonds haven't been doing too well, right? Who would have thought those go up and down? So I think, it's really interesting to me when we're working with clients when they think the stock market is the only way to go. Mm-hmm. And there's several different things that you've heard us talk about, Ron, right? You're an expert on them now too. So basically, there's a lot of different ways out there through fixed index annuities where we could provide safety and guarantees, as well as provide a pretty good rate of return. And there's also other things out there like structured notes. There's treasuries. There's cash alternatives. There's a lot of different places you could plug into your stock market holdings and maybe even real estate holdings to further diversify and not have to depend on whether it's green or red of the day, right? You really, I think, the most important part of a retirement plan is knowing what your returns are going to look like, not only in an up market, but also in a down market. And that means putting different layers of protection in place. And again, some people, if you have $1 million in that example, yeah, you might only want 20 or 30% of that maybe more protected than the other. And maybe there's 70% in the market. Some are half, it just really depends on your situation. And that's what we're obviously here for, is to take a deeper dive. But you don't want to be 100% reliant on the stock market, especially if you're not in a situation where you can handle those ups and downs at this point.
Everybody's situation is totally different. We always talk about how you're unique, I'm unique, everybody listening is unique. And so that's why it's so important to have that one-on-one conversation with Logan about your individual scenario. We've talked about being independent from all these things, but being independent from worry and stress. My goodness, that is the end result of having a plan that you put together with Logan Sadler's help.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Ron. I think being able to build a worry-free retirement is kind of what we're all looking for, right? Most of the people that come into our office, as we mentioned earlier, they're approaching retirement, and they're at a point where, yes, making money on your money is great, but there's a huge saying out there that what got you to retirement probably won't get you through retirement. So you really need to make sure that you're working with an advisor that you trust, and that if you're married, you want to make sure that both of you can communicate very openly with that person to make sure they're building you that plan plan to make sure you're getting that worry-free retirement, because there are so many different things that come up with a retirement plan, with inflation, income, market risk, taxes, right? All these different things that are going to come up that you want to make sure that you're in the right position and have the right person to help navigate you and your family through that. And, like we always mention the discovery meeting on here, and Ron's going to give you the number here in a second. But, our firm has been building plans for over 25 years. And, typically our clients are over the age of 55 looking to get that customized retirement plan that's built to last for that potential 20 or 30-year retirement. And we believe that most people, when their retirement plans, are looking for simplicity, tax efficiency, and peace of mind when it comes to retirement planning. So if you're interested in that, give us a call. I'd be happy to spend an hour with you and take a deep dive.
888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. The number for Regari Financial, with offices in Hemet and Redlands, serving you in Southern California, wherever you happen to be. Logan Sadler is VP, Chief Investment Officer there, and would love to have a conversation with you. You can set that up by calling this number, 888-823-PLAN. Leave a message with your name and phone number. You'll get a call back, and then you can arrange a time to have that conversation with Logan. No cost and no obligation. Logan Sadler works with all three generations of some of the client families, and many of those clients have been with the firm for more than 25 years. That's a long time, and a lot of people who count on Regari Financial to get them to and through retirement. Have a conversation with Logan, but first, you got to make that phone call, 888-823-PLAN. My name is Ron Stutz, hanging out with Logan Sadler here, and we'll have more coming up on the Financial Beat.
Financial stability, relaxing retirement, tax reductions. Do those things sound like music to your ears? Then you've tuned to the right show, because here on the Financial Beat, we want to give you the tools to build your financial plan. So don't change that dial, because Logan Sadler has some information that will leave you singing the tune of a better retirement.
And the beat goes on. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, Regari Financial. Hey, if you'd like to get in touch with Logan Sadler, here's a phone number for you. I hope you will write it down if you haven't already. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. So important to have that conversation, because we're all different. We're all unique. Logan Sadler can find out more about your particular scenario and then give you much more helpful information. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler has great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, Medicare specialists, everybody involved in the financial world to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial. If you become a client, get a discovery meeting going. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. Hey, got a quote of the week. I think you'll enjoy this one, Logan. It's from Fran Lebowitz. And Fran once said, "I've done the calculation, and your chances of winning the lottery are identical whether you play or not." I think she's probably just about right.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. Every time I buy a lotto ticket, which is very, very rare, you just feel like this is it, right? And then even when you don't buy a lotto ticket, you're like, hey, you never know, could be me. So you just, there's not much chance there. But hey, the ones that have won and actually done what's right with the money, good for you. And that's why so many of you guys out there keep playing, I guess.
I'll tell you, you could ask my wife. I probably said at least a dozen times, one of these days I'm going to win the lottery. Yeah. And, but the problem is I never buy lottery tickets. So.
Yeah. And you still feel like you got a chance, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably as good a chance as I would if I actually bought the ticket. So,
Yep.
Hey, we talk about 401ks a lot on this show, and they're certainly not perfect. Your 401k can be a very powerful retirement savings tool, but there are some problems, potential problems. Let's talk about some of the weaknesses that you should be aware of in your 401k or your 403b or TSP or 457. First of all, 401ks are basically mutual funds and not a whole lot else, right, Logan?
Yeah, basically, when you look at an average 401k, most of the breakdowns on those are they very rarely do they offer ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. Most of the time, it's almost 100% mutual funds, and by just the construction of the 401k, they really don't give you a whole lot of different options in there. Most of them give you anywhere between 10 or 15 choices of different funds, and let's be honest, most of you guys, when you signed up for it, probably didn't do much research on those funds, right? You just checked X, Y, or Z, or did it because your friend or neighbor or coworker did. So, I mean, a lot of people don't put a lot of thought into what they're electing. And, it is a bummer that there's not a whole lot of flexibility in those as far as the fund choices. Again, I like 401ks when you're working and you're contributing. They're a great spot to put money. But when you're no longer working there, or when you're over the age of 50, you do have a lot of options out there. Because what's funny is I was doing a review with a client that was trying to come on board with our firm, and it was a referral from a client of ours, and we were meeting with her and her husband. They were really nice people. We're getting to talking, going over their investments. They had like a 60-40 split roughly in the 401k, so 60% of it was in the market, 40% of it was in bonds and things of that sort. And it was crazy. So they were paying about 1.5% on that 401k, which is not astronomical, but it's an expense to look at. They really weren't getting much planning or extra advice on that. And when I was able to run the report on the funds they were in, there was an additional 1.78% of fund expense cost. Ooh. So that means, just for the cost of those funds, there was an extra almost 2% tacked on. So when you look at the cost of that 401k, it's really close to the high 3s, low 4s as far as overall cost. And so with ETFs and obviously putting our investment management on it, as well as our continued advice and planning, we were able to significantly reduce fees while also providing a heck of a lot more value than just those typical mutual funds. So it's definitely something a lot of you out there that have a 401k kind of need to be aware of. And I recommend definitely giving us a call and letting us do a little analysis if you're over 59 and a half, or if you have an old 401k that you're no longer employed at that place.
Yeah, most people have no idea what kind of fees they're paying. And that's why it's so important to have that discovery meeting, because you can discover those things right up front. And maybe, even if they don't become a client, you can, do them a big favor for sure.
Absolutely.
So why not know, have peace of mind. Also, there are so many options out here in the financial world, but when you have a 401k, you're kind of limited as far as asset classes are concerned.
Yeah, that's another great point, Ron. I mean, it's funny. My wife just got hired on with the school district out in this area, and so we were signing her up for her 457. And so we're looking through the options, and of course, me being a financial advisor is driving me nuts, right? Because there's only, I know what else is out there in the world, right? And they give you 4, 5, or 6 different options, and in different large cap, small cap, or mid cap funds, as well as maybe some international options, or maybe even a bond fund of some sort, or those lovely target date funds like a 2050 fund or a 2040 fund, but they really don't give you a whole lot of world out there as far as commodities, real estate, healthcare, energy. There's no FIAs, no structured notes, no private equity funds. So, I mean, a lot is off the table when you're looking at those employer-sponsored plans. Again, like I said, they're great when you're working there, and a lot of people can build a lot of wealth through them. I'm not here to knock the 401k, but I definitely know once you're over that age of 59 and a half, or no longer employed, you have a whole new world. I always like to joke with people because, they say, well, what can you do that my 401k can't do, right? And it's something where it's really, really hard to explain without showing you. And so I'll be able to say, hey, we're going to do this, right? This FIA provides maybe some really, really good upside participation in the market with no downsides. It also pays you cash flow. Then we have this structured note or this real estate investment, plus we have the stock market and other things kind of mixed in. You're just able to get a whole new world of investments, as well as typically have a whole lot more tax control on Roth conversions and things of that sort to really make a big difference in that retirement plan long term than just a small cap or mid cap fund section that you get in the 401k.
And late in life, if you're getting close to retirement, you want to be more conservative, as we have talked about so many times here, but you don't get a lot of great conservative investments in a 401k either. No,
you don't. You get like either a cash fund or a money market type fund or a guaranteed fund of some sort. And let me tell you this, 0.25, right, 0.25% will not save and get you to retirement, or get you through retirement. It's just there's no way to do it in those accounts with that conservative investment, with interest rates not paying nearly as much in those money markets. So, you definitely you don't have a lot of options when it comes to investments on the conservative side. And I always like to ask people, sometimes, hey, are you but do you like bonds? Have you heard much of bonds or fixed income investments? And they go, yeah, but I've heard they're down a lot and I don't really like those. And I'll go, oh, okay. And I look at their report and it's like, well, you're, 78% in bonds, right? So by the time you do some analysis, it's really interesting that a lot of them don't understand the conservative investments in there and what they're in. And to a lot of people's surprise, bonds have taken a pretty good hit over the last few years, and especially year to date, with some bond funds being down anywhere between 10 to 12%. That's not considered safe money for some people, right? So, definitely there's not a lot of choices in there, and a lot of people don't understand what that stable value fund is or what is in it. So it just isn't, not always as transparent as you might like, and as well as there's just so many different options outside the 401k with either some types of fixed products, whether that's on the annuity space or on the structured note side, where you just have a lot more control over volatility and conservative nature.
If you decide you need to make a withdrawal from your 401k for whatever reason, sometimes it's kind of complicated. They don't really make it easy, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. It's funny. I actually had a client who the other day came on board. Strictly how he ended up getting a hold of us was he came to one of our presentations we were doing at one of our live events. And it was funny because he said he had tried to and he had a sizable 401k. It was like $700,000 he had at a company, and he was trying to make a withdrawal. And he was like, you know what? It was just such a pain in the butt to get money out. And he just needed a small withdrawal of his, $700,000, and he wasn't able to get it. And they were going to automatically withhold 20% withholdings. A lot of people don't know that some of them automatically withhold. So there's not a lot of customization to the withdrawals from a 401k directly. And so it was just kind of funny. He was like, hey, I like the plan. I like what you were presenting here, but also I just know that it's just so much easier to call you and work with your company on how to get money out or how to do it. And you just have more flexibility. So definitely it just kind of gets kind of clunky when it comes time to trying to take income out of a 401k. It's not always as easy as you would like. And I, if you're one of those people out there with a 401k and you're over the age of 59 and a half, or you have an old 401k that you're no longer working with that company, I definitely think you should take us up on that discovery meeting. I'll be able to really show you the valuable world that we were talking about, that whole new world outside there when it comes to investments, retirement planning, and show you the value you could really get by working with an advisor that is specializing in retirement planning to help get you to and through retirement, and really get a much more better picture of what you're trying to do with that retirement plan, what your assets are in, and really how that can impact positively or negatively over the remainder of your retirement to make sure that you have the right investments in place and know exactly what the risk versus return is on each of those investments to continue on for your retirement plan.
Hey, we really appreciate your listening to the show today, but the absolute best way to get a handle on what your financial situation may be getting to and through retirement is to call this number, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. That way you can arrange to get a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. He can discover things about you. You can discover things about him, decide if you'd like to work together, but it's not going to cost you anything to do that, and there's no obligation involved either. No strings attached, in other words. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. If you're calling during the show, all you got to do is leave your message with your name and your phone number. You'll get a call back, first opportunity, and then you can arrange a time to have that discovery meeting that we talk about so often. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is on the radio. Go tell everybody you know, and we'll be right back with more in just a moment.
Do you ever find yourself skipping through countless songs trying to find the perfect one? Yeah, we've been there too, and know it can be frustrating. Much like skipping through the countless advertisements from other financial advisors, it can seem like there's so much misinformation. But here on the Financial Beat, you can rest assured we're providing you with the best information possible. So don't push skip on this show, because we have some important information coming up.
Welcome back to the Financial Beat with the one and only Logan Sadler. Not another one like him out there, often imitated but never duplicated. Logan Sadler, of course, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. We've been doing this show for a pretty good while now, and if you are a regular listener, isn't it about time that you got around to making that phone call? 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. write that down or put it in your phone, whatever you need to do in order to recall it. But the best thing to do is go ahead and call it right now. You don't have to rely on your memory. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. That is the number for Regari Financial. You can call that number right now, leave your name and your phone number, and then you'll get a call back from the office and set up a time to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. Not only is Logan on the radio here, but there are podcasts that are available that you can listen to. And you can listen to those at 3 o'clock in the morning if you'd like. Whatever your schedule may be, or if you missed part of a show, you can go back and get it that way. But also, Logan has a variety of YouTube videos, and those are pretty cool, Logan. You got a lot of good information on there.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. And like you were saying, I love the podcast format of this radio show as well as the YouTube. And those of you who haven't, you can head over to The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler, either on your podcast platforms like Apple Music, Spotify. And there's over 68 of these shows now recorded and put up there. Wow. And as Ron was mentioned, I know quite a bit, right? Time's flown by.
Yeah.
And as well as the Financial Beat YouTube channel, we now have like around 15 different videos on Social Security, selling highly appreciated real estate, a financial advisor, red flags, a lot of different educational short videos on that format. Again, that's on YouTube under The Financial Beat. So head on over there, click subscribe, and follow along.
Gosh, 68 podcasts? That's amazing.
Yeah, we're flying by here. So time's flown. But
time really does fly.
Some of them are better than others, right? But there's still a lot of valuable information on there for whenever it's at your convenience to go over there and check it out.
Yeah, you remember this old song from the 60s called The Name Game?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Shirley Ellis had a song called The Name Game, and let's talk about the financial blame game.
Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm excited.
A lot of people like to blame things on other people, and the last person they want to blame is themselves.
It's way easier that way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about some of the common things that people might blame for their financial planning troubles. And you can give us an example of a time when you've heard these statements, because I know you've talked to so many hundreds of people. Mm-hmm. And tell us if the fingers being pointed were in the right direction or the wrong direction. A lot of people that I know that you've met with and you've gotten to know, some have become clients, some have not, but a lot of people say, my divorce really messed me up financially. Yeah. Is this an example of the blame game being directed to somebody else?
You know what? I have to answer this one kind of on both sides. I would say I've seen in some cases where it's definitely just an excuse to some extent, right? Blaming someone else. But I have also seen it where the divorce has really kind of crippled them at the wrong time for financial planning. And, a good client of ours, they've been with us, about, 15 years or so, a very long time. Him and his wife, both great people, have a great relationship with both of them. And they're actually both still clients, as funny as you might expect that to be. But they're both clients of ours. And they were about 62 years old when they decided to get divorced. And it was, that's right at the peak, right when he was about a year away from retirement, had a really good nest egg saved up, had a pension and all this stuff. And we had a really great plan, and things just didn't work out between the two of them, and for whatever reason, and for both of them, it was kind of a huge blow. Because they had around $1.5 million or so saved up for retirement, which was a great nest egg, and they had other means like real estate and stuff. But when you cut that number in half, right, and get that divorce, it was something where it significantly reduced each of their incomes at really a critical point, because he didn't want to work another 10 years or so to kind of make that recovery. So that was one of those instances I would say where for both of them it was definitely kind of a blow to the income, because basically you're taking half, right? And so it was a tough spot. But I have seen some clients that got divorced 15 years ago and have never really got back on the saving pony or never got back to financial planning, and they kind of just let that one blow kind of set them back, and they never really got back on track, and they just kind of always kind of use the divorce as a little bit of a crutch to kind of get by. So I've seen it on both sides, but it's definitely, divorce is probably one of the most unexpected things, or sometimes it's expected, but it's one of those things where it's just it gets really, really difficult on retirement planning, depending on what time and kind of how that circumstance works out.
Terrible timing with that example you just gave.
It was, and they were both great people, and it just, like I said, for whatever reason, didn't work out, and it was just at a really bad time for the both of them, because they both worked, and it just, to get the type of income they kind of had wanted to live the lifestyle they wanted, it was just a very crucial time for them, and it just, for whatever reason, they felt it was time, and so we had to make do with what we could.
I'm sure that you've had some folks come in and talk to you in that discovery meeting and say, my old broker did me wrong. Have you seen cases where that's really genuinely true, or are people using that as an excuse?
That's a tough one to answer, I would say. I think I've seen it on both sides. I've definitely, like I always mention, I'm actually really close. I'm in a lot of these affinity groups with different advisors all around the United States, really. And there's a lot of really good ones out there that have done right by the clients and put them first and really done some, true planning, not just selling and saying, hey, life insurance fixes everything, or the market fixes everything, but real financial planning. And there's a lot of great ones out there, but there's also a lot of them that aren't so great, and so I think I've seen it on both sides, where sometimes the clients kind of either blamed the broker or the old advisor or whoever it was that, hey, during 2008 I lost a lot of money, and he never made it back for me, or this, that, the other, right? We've heard it all different ways, but I always like to say a lot of the times it's very important to the client to try to understand what risk you're taking or what type of strategies the advisor is using. I think it's very important, and that's why we actually have a 3-meeting process that I mentioned before, where before I ever bring a client on board, we've typically met 3 different occasions where, one, we've got to know you at the discovery meeting. I've talked a lot about risk and planning and taxes and all the stuff we were going to try to implement, as well as, then the second meeting is when we're going to go over strategies. I show you right there on the computer, hey, based off this strategy, here's what could happen in a down market. Here's what could happen in an up market. So we like to really, really break it down and really make sure the clients understand. Now, there is some people out there that don't take that approach, right? They meet you for 30 minutes and they know everything in the world and how to solve your problems. And then, you're not real clear on what type of risk or what type of investments you're in, whether it's an annuity with the surrender charge or whether it's a stock market portfolio with too much risk, So I've definitely seen it on both sides. But I think a lot of the times, most people don't take the time that you really should be taking to get to know your advisor, or your broker or whoever. And I think this business is something that we've always tried to build. It is a relationship business. You're trusting somebody. What I always tell people, you're trusting somebody to handle 2 of the most important things in the world to you, whether you know it or not, and that is your family and your money, right? I mean, so when it comes down to it, people are choosing an advisor that they want to work with, that they trust if something happens, he's going to take good care of my wife or my husband or my kids, as far as guiding them financially. And as well, he's going to do what's right with our investments and our money to make sure it's the right fit. So I think most people need to spend a little bit more time and put that as more of a priority to understand their advisor and get familiar with what it is they're trying to do and what their investments are going to look like, and really build that relationship.
Gosh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was getting ready to say it's a relationship business after all. And it's all about building that relationship and that trust.
It is.
Yeah. Some folks, I'm sure, have been rather jaded in the past about, maybe mistakes they've made or things that have happened to them financially speaking. And they may say, Logan, the system is rigged. Wall Street always wins, never the little guy. How do you handle that kind of a statement?
Yeah, I would say that's kind of passing the blame on. I mean, that I've just seen. Everyone knows somebody where that's not the case. You've seen many of little guys win over and over, and it really comes down to how you're investing, what your philosophy is, and what you're doing. I think a lot of people sometimes think they could just close their eyes and throw $10,000 into a brokerage account and it should be $1 million overnight, but that's just not how it works.
That would be great.
I wish that's how it worked, but it's just not. And it's funny because I always tell people, and I know I've said it on the show before, where investing is a lot like a marriage or a lot like a friendship, where it's going to go up and down, right? Sometimes you like each other, sometimes you're mad at each other, but it's all about finding that long haul commitment. And that's where investing is made money. And it's not that short term, try to get rich quick scheme. So I think a lot of people say, oh, only Wall Street wins, the little guy never wins, but that's not true. We help people. Most of our clients are, blue collar workers that have worked their butt off and put away a little money at a time. And next thing you know, they call in for that discovery meeting and they got $2 million or $3 million put away that they have worked their butt off for, and the market has proven to be a good spot for them, or other investments, real estate, or things of that sort. Yeah. So it's definitely I don't necessarily agree with that one. I think that's more kind of putting the blame off.
The last one I wanted to mention here, last excuse or maybe legitimate reason, is going on a lot lately in the last few years. Some folks say, my kids have had trouble finding good jobs since they finished school, so I've been helping them out for years. And I know you see that happen a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I get it, right? I mean, as a father, you always want to help your kids out, or as a mother, you want to help your kids out. But I think a lot of the times, sometimes a lot of parents not knowingly doing it, but they kind of sometimes, give their kid that crutch to where, well, maybe there is a job out there they can get, but they just know that, hey, maybe mom and dad will just keep helping me out for a few more years, right?
You don't want to enable them,
Yeah, and like you said, I think a helping hand's a good hand, but if you're holding them up with two hands the whole time, they never could really take their first steps and get going. So I think there's definitely a balance to find there with kids, and I've had to have that conversation with clients where it's like, hey, look, yeah, you have $1 million and a pension and Social Security and all those other things, but you can't afford to keep doing this, right? Or if you do, that's fine, but here's going to be the impact of that. So sometimes you got to have that conversation. And like I said, nobody ever does it willingly, knowing, hey, I know I'm enabling my kids, right? But a lot of the times they just do it because they love their kids and they're trying to help them out and give them maybe a start that they didn't have. I have a lot of our wealthier clients that came from nothing, and they built up a great, basically a great legacy that they have, and they're trying to make sure that their kids have the best options and best tools in life to get where they need to go. And sometimes without knowing, you kind of enable them or make things a little too easy, where it's a little too comfortable for them to maybe go out there and take that job washing dishes or digging ditches or whatever that first job is to get you going. So I think that's sometimes where I've seen that be kind of a hard spot to kind of put the blame on. But I think that's a lot of what our job is, Ron. I mean, you know me, you've heard me talk about it over and over, but really our job really is to make sure that at the end of the day, it is a relationship business, like you said. And I think the biggest thing I like to take about our job, and the most emphasis I like to put, is investments are investments, right? I mean, if you're meeting with a good fiduciary advisor, they should be able to offer stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate portfolios, annuities, life insurance products, all that stuff. A good financial advisor should be able to offer all that, as well as tax planning and estate planning, all the other key elements to retirement planning. But they also need to be able to have that relationship with you and your family, and making sure you can solve all these four things we talked about by making sure you have that good relationship with an advisor that specializes in what you're trying to accomplish in that phase of life with retirement planning. So if that's what you're looking for and you'd like to get a conversation together, I'd love to have you come into the office or do one of our Zooms that we're doing pretty frequently nowadays with people all around, and really just take a deep dive and see if we can get a connection together and see if we can get some retirement planning underway. And like I said, it starts with that connection and that conversation.
888-823-PLAN. That is your number to call if you'd like to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. Same guy you hear on the radio. Very easy to talk to, very easy to get to know, and it will be a very pleasant conversation. There's no salesmanship or pressure or anything like that. It's just kind of a getting to know you session. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-7526. That is your number to call if you'd like to make that happen. There's no cost and no obligation involved. 888-823-PLAN. We'll have more coming up in just a moment, and you're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Stay with us.
At the end of the day, no one truly understands your financial wants and desires better than you. That's why it's important to have financial independence. This means you can work when you want, you know exactly where your income is coming from, and most importantly, your finances are stable. If this sounds like something you want, well, text the word ADVICE to the number 21000, and Logan Sadler and his team at Regari Financial can provide you with their free guide on achieving financial independence. The free guide will show you how to create an action plan for getting to where you want to be. It'll explain how to calculate a financial independence goal, and it'll define what an ICE egg is and why it's so important. Download it now by texting the word ADVICE to the number 21000. Again, text the word ADVICE to the number 21000 to gain your financial independence today.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
Welcome back to more of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. As they say, the beat goes on. And Logan Sadler is on this show every week talking about how important it is for you to have a plan to get to and through retirement. We all know that. Some of us listen to this show every single week and still don't get around to making the phone call. Here's your number, 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. Call that number today, leave your name and phone number, and you can have an opportunity to sit down and talk with Logan Sadler, either on the phone or maybe via Zoom, or maybe you might want to come into one of the offices in Hemet or Redlands. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make it happen. And Logan, I know that right now it's good to be able to get out here and host some educational seminars and webinars and estate planning, retirement income, taxes, and retirement. And I know you love going to local universities and senior centers as well as doing these things online. And in future shows, we'll tell you where some of these things are happening. But those are always fun to do, aren't they?
You know, they really are. I love the radio. I love the YouTube videos and podcasts. But there is nothing like getting out there in front of a live group of people, whether it's clients or existing clients or new prospects or just people in the community looking to get some education on those retirement topics. It's always so fun just to kind of meet and entertain and also just provide some good education. It's which I always like to say, hey, I love food and I love talking about retirement. So those dinner ones are, to me, it's right up my alley. So I really do enjoy it.
Well, stay with us on the Financial Beat. Future shows, we'll tell you about some other events that are coming up. Let's go to the mailbag here. Got great questions today. First of all, from Carla in L.A. Carla says, Logan, we found a vacation home that we've fallen in love with and want to buy it. We don't have enough cash on hand to put 20% down, which is our goal. So it seems that these are our options. A, take a withdrawal from my IRA or Roth. B, take out a 401k loan. Or C, take a loan against our primary home, which is all paid off. Which do you think is better?
All right, Carlo. Well, first off, thank you for writing in. I appreciate you listening to the show. And this is a tough question. I think a lot of people find ourselves in this predicament. And what I would always like, if you were my client and you were sitting in front of me, what I would look at is, basically what other assets do we have, what you mentioned here, how much cash do we have? The next most important thing I would say is how would buying this home, if we took the withdrawal from, let's say, the loan against the primary home or the withdrawal from the retirement accounts, how would this affect your potential retirement? Would it significantly reduce your future income? Would it take a huge hit on your assets? The vacation home, is it $200,000 or $800,000 too? That's a big question to ask, because either one of these, the Roth IRA is great to get to because there's no taxes on it, right? So you could pull, a hunk of money and to put down, but that means now we've used a lot of our Roth, depending on how much we have in there. The other thing is the IRA is all taxable, so I typically don't like taking withdrawals from IRAs or 401ks because, you can, if you needed to pull $100,000, that's great, but it might cost you, 30 or 40% in taxes depending on your income. So I would really kind of sit down and weigh these options, and I'd like to know a bit more, but taking out the loan on the primary home is an option, but again, it's a paid off asset, and with interest rates where they were at, having to do a cash out refi might bump you up into those not so fun interest rates. So I would kind of walk through each of those with you, but it sounds like you guys really, really want the home, but I would really ask yourselves, what assets do we have? And I want to take a deeper dive into how it would affect our overall retirement picture before we decided where to pull from. But it does sound like you have some different avenues to take withdrawals from, which is great.
Well, glad you wrote in with a question, Carla. Thank you so much. But as they say in the real estate business, time is of the essence, and you need to move quickly. So go ahead and call that number and get a conversation with Logan Sadler about this before you make a decision. Could save you a whole lot of money and a lot of heartache. 888-823-PLAN. Next question here is from Rebecca in Banning. And Rebecca says, I'm close to retiring, and I'm really concerned about the way the market is fluctuating right now. My broker says that I should just ride the wave and that the market will start going up eventually. But Logan, I'm sure you noticed, she just said she was close to retirement. Is that good advice from that broker guy?
One of my favorite sayings I ever heard was someone had said their financial advisor told them, "Hey, just keep water in the tree," and a lot of the times that might be the best advice, to be honest. A lot of the times, depending on what situation you are in, it might be a good idea to keep writing it out. We never recommend making adjustments based off what's going on in the news. A financial plan should be solid enough to where a news article or a bumpy market shouldn't affect it. Now, with you being so close to retirement, it might be a whole different story, right? I mean, if you have 100% of your money in this retirement account or in this investment account that is 100% in the market and you're not quite sure what the downside might be, could it go down 20%, 30%, 40%? I mean, how would that affect your overall bottom line is exactly what I would want to know with our clients. And so, I think it might be a good idea to give us a call or give someone that you trust or know in your or give us a call and we'll take a deep dive on that because, I always tell people sometimes if you're a year away from retirement, a 30 or 40% market correction might have a huge impact on what your potential income might be, sequence of return risk, all of that stuff plays a huge fact that a lot of people don't take a look at in retirement. That's why we use things like fixed index annuities that provide, guaranteed cash flow. They provide market returns with no downside, right? So you get a participation in some of the upside of the market, but you don't get any of the downside. So it's a great way to offset some risk, as well as there's lots of other alternatives you can plug in that we feel can be really great when building a retirement plan. So we're not as reliant on hoping that market bounces back, because I'll tell you what I tell all of our clients. And everybody always likes to kind of corner me on this, Ron. As a financial advisor, they always like to say, hey, so when's the market going to drop, right?
Of course.
I always tell people, well, I can tell you one thing, it's going to drop. But it's going to go back up too, right? I just don't know when or for how long. Those are the answers I don't know, and nobody knows. So it's important that we build a plan that we're not reliant on, well, hopefully the market goes up today or hopefully it doesn't go down too much more. You really want to make sure we put the pieces in play to where that's not our sole purpose and our sole worry of that retirement plan.
It'd be great to have a crystal ball, wouldn't it?
Man, I always tell people, if I had that crystal ball, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys, right? I'd probably be off somewhere on a beach by myself. So
That's right.
It's important to just make sure that we're not just being jumpy and relying on the news, but also to have that worry free. You got to make sure you have the right retirement plan for you. So I definitely recommend for you to give us a call, or making sure your advisor has that right retirement plan for you.
Hey, got one more question here before we go. It's from Phil in Temecula. And Phil says, my pension doesn't provide an inflation raise each year, so I'll still be getting the same amount at age 85 than I'll have at 65. Should I even bother taking the spousal continuation option for my wife to keep getting the monthly payment if she outlives me?
Yeah, great question, Phil. That's one of the things I always tell people. Pensions and Social Security and that stuff is awesome, right? And so is annuity income as well. But I think a lot of the times people don't factor in that, hey, yeah, that income at 65 might be sufficient. But what about at 75 or 85, like you said, to your point? So a lot of the plans we're building, we're looking at tax efficiency. And I think a lot of people, when they think, oh, you're a financial advisor, they go, oh, he just works with insurance products or investments, right? But I think a lot more of what we do is on the planning side. We talk about annuities or market investments or bonds or ETFs, mutual funds. We talk about all that stuff. But I think a lot more of the time we spend is on the planning side. We're looking at what investments will get us there, but also looking at inflation, tax planning, all these things that you're kind of mentioning here, Phil, play a huge impact in a retirement plan, because like you said, I don't think the rate of inflation is going to stay quite as high as it is forever, but we always have some inflation. So I think it's a big worry that a lot of people have with those pensions is they're at a fixed rate, and a lot of the times their adjustments don't keep up with the cost of inflation. So, I would definitely take a look at that. As far as your spousal continuation, I would definitely recommend you sit down with somebody, whether that's us or someone that you know in the financial world, to make sure you're really doing the math on that. I love the spousal continuation options because a lot of the times, depending on the situation, a lot of the times it's the best way to get the most money out of that pension over 2 lifetimes, because we have no idea how long you're going to live, but the odds of both of you living to at least life expectancy are pretty high, which means you'll get the most money out of that pension. So give us a call, Phil. I'd love to kind of sit down and go over how to maybe, integrate some inflation protection in your plan, as well as go over that spousal continuation continuation option.
All right, the number to call if you'd like to get some answers to your questions. And this goes for Phil and Rebecca and Carla and anyone else who has a question. 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler, of course, at Regary Financial, serving you wherever you are in Southern California. Convenient offices in Hemet and Redlands, but you don't necessarily have to go to one of the offices to have this conversation. You can do it via Zoom. A lot of that taking place right now, or maybe it'll end up just being a phone call, but it's a quick conversation, a getting to know you session. Logan calls it a discovery meeting. You can discover things about each other and decide if you'd like to work together, and if not, that's cool too. There's no cost and no obligation. 888-823-PLAN. That is your number to call for Regary Financial. Logan Sadler would love to get to know you and help you get to and through retirement. Hey, Logan, great show again today. It's been fun being with you. I know that you're going to hear from a lot of folks, and you've certainly passed out a lot of good information.
Hey, Ron, I appreciate it. Appreciate you hanging around with me for an hour, as well as all the listeners. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. As always, I really enjoy doing it, providing the education to you guys, and hopefully kept you guys entertained. And I do appreciate all the kind comments and things back from you listeners on the show. We appreciate it. And hey, we'll see you back here next week.
Join us again next time for the next edition of the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. One more time, that phone number, 888-823-PLAN.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for anyone. All information discussed is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of BD Financial Group and do not necessarily represent the views of Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult with your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory and financial planning services are offered through Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Alpha Star and BD Financial Group are independent entities. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability.